which, as disclosed in Note 15A to the financial statements, includes an expenditure of Kenya shillings 623,495,100 in respect of feasibility studies. However, 8 feasibility studies at a total cost of Kenya shillings 377,999,568 were conducted between 5 to 10 years ago and were yet to be implemented as capital projects. Management has not explained the reason for delay in implementation of the projects. In the circumstances, the company has not obtained value for money on expenditure of Kenya shillings 377,999,568 incurred on feasibility studies. Sign up.
We wish to state as follows. Management has instituted measures to fast-track implementation of projects that are deemed viable from the feasibility studies.
And all of us know sometimes feasibility studies are meant for what? Because it's one of the clearest way, the easiest way of saving money from public, from institutions, and therefore, Mr. Chairman, my issue is only one. Can they provide us with the terms of reference of all those projects that you are undertaking, so that you can be able to know how they were based and how they were supposed to be implemented? Because that should have the basis, the basic thing they would have done before going ahead with the implementation of this project.
I mean, 400 million, we could put up about 4 shelters for abused women. So here we have this money that has been paid to consultants, where simple things like the land should have been a priority before you start the feasibility study. Some of the studies are funded by the development partners, who again will be ridiculed by us. But if you look at this, I'd also want to know, besides the suppliers that you've used for these feasibility studies, are these projects ever going to take off? Because they seem to be recurring into your financial statements. And between the list of how many other feasibility studies have you done over in different locations beyond this period, like the year 2022, 23, 24, 25? Are you conducting more and more feasibility studies for other projects, whereas these ones are still have not taken off? Will these ever take off, especially now when you say that also KAA is having a problem with your transmissions? KCAA requested for the relocation.
Which number is that?
This is number 4.
Number 4.
Assessment of the performance of GONG 1
Yes.
and Phase 2.
Yes.
So they're saying that in a letter, this was in 2017, so in a letter dated October 2023, KCAA requested for relocation, decommissioning, and of existing turbines and no further development for the proposed 10. So what has happened to this project? And the 20 million that was spent, right? And was there anything else spent here on this project? Because when you're saying the terms of reference for the acquisition of the consultant to conduct a feasibility study, so you've done the feasibility study, you obviously have put some turbines for KCAA. So it's not just the 20 million. The 20 million was a feasibility study. How much of the 57 billion was spent here that is now sunk because of the project? And Chair, this is not so far, this is gone. We could actually have a tour of this place to see how much money have they sunk, and over and above the feasibility for this project from the 57 billion that has been spent. The position reflects, if you go to page 5, it says the position reflects work in progress balance of Kenya shillings 57 billion. So how much of that 57 billion has been sunk here? And
which is
now that have been told to stop?
PASSARIS are not yours, because it might also lead to a decommissioning.
Yeah, of a project that's already been implemented.
Yes.
Who is culpable? Who's going to pay for this wrong decision to go and put a project when you haven't consulted the neighboring facilities? Because, I mean, I'm sure it's more than 20 million. We're being shown 20 million by the auditor. But how
Only
much of the 57 billion has gone into this project? And now that, has it been stopped or is it working?
For these projects, KENGEN identifies the area where there are prospects. And if I may give an example, if we know that there is some good wind in Marsabit, we may not know what is the exact location that will give us the best wind for our project. And that's why the feasibility studies are done. So to us, we require the feasibility studies to be done, and one of the terms of reference is they tell us exactly where we would be able to locate the project. And that now informs us on the next stage of handling the issues of the land.
Asking his general manager to respond,
Yes.
he said something that made me think. He said the reason why they conduct feasibility studies because they want to know the direction that the wind flows, and so that they can know whether it's okay to put a plant there.
Generic.
Okay, but the question is, KENGEN has, even the managing director himself has the title engineer. KENGEN also has a number of engineers. If I have to ask them to tell me how many engineers are working at KENGEN, surely you don't need to hire a consultant for 20 million to tell you which direction the wind is flowing.
Chair.
What is it now?
Chair. The meteorological department
Oh, sorry. Okay.
will be able to provide exactly what the MD has said. The
that
strength
was
of the winds.
Honourable members, it is not. It's not on record. It is not on the. It's not the business of the house. That was generic.
You see, the feasibility studies, when we do the feasibility studies, it's also some form of research. And we have a division in KENGEN that specializes in that. I also want to step back and say that we collect a lot of data around the country because we keep the repository of, for example, the renewable energy potential in the country, because then we do not want to just have figures that cannot be confirmed. So in addition to, acquiring the data on the energy potential, we also want to know exactly where that energy potential is sited.
Chair, when you do a project like this and you spend public money, you're expecting to get a deliverable for the organization as well as for the country. So there has to be a return on investment. So would you say that, because now this is just a 20 million for the feasibility, right? And for me, whether it's paid by a donor, a development partner, or Kenyan taxpayers, it is still part of the relationship that the country has with foreign donors that and pegs a lot of the credibility of us as a country when we are asking for funding. It's taxpayers from another country. So what I want to know, has this project paid off itself, that you can now think of relocating it to another area, because we don't want to interfere with our aviation space, I understand that, or has it been a complete white elephant? Has it given any benefit to KENGEN in terms of watts that it has supplied, in terms of energy that has been delivered to the country? Or is it a white elephant, including the actual cost of putting those turbines? And are those turbines, again, put by KENGEN, or are they put by another private developer that is now taxing KENGEN huge sums of money for non-implementation of a project? Because I've seen that when it comes to some of these projects, you've done the feasibility study as KENGEN, you've probably put in some capital in a PPP or you've given it completely to somebody to do, right? But if that person now cannot derive the income out of the contract that you signed and the feasibility study that you had, that means when we look at this project, we might be thinking 20 million, but in actual fact, by the time we're done with it and we've closed it, for instance, if we're going to close it, decommission it, the country will be left totally exposed. I think we need full disclosure on this project, because it seems like this is a project that will cost the country billions, because we might have a partner that we gave to do this particular project, and yet now we have to say stop, and then they'll be suing KENGEN, or they've already sued KENGEN.
I believe you are referring to the Gong Wind project.
Yes.
It's already an existing power project which has a capacity of 25.5 megawatts, and it has been operational. We have a power purchase agreement with Kenya Power.
Chair, sorry, he says 25, and the details of the project says 10. So which is it, 10 to 25 or 10?
We're talking about the existing. The 10 is a project that was now to come on top of this 25.5. We wanted to upgrade the existing power plant with an additional 10 megawatts. So that is what we are talking about. And what I wanted to say is We have a power purchase agreement with Kenya Power, and that power purchase agreement takes care of the costs of the project for the whole period.
Chair, as we try and find a conclusion to all this, the one thing that I get, when you talked about you're secure because you've already got a power purchasing agreement with Kenya Power and Lighting, and so your profits are secured. But I'll tell you, is these bad deals that you're doing as KENGEN that are crippling Kenya Power and Lighting?
Maybe.
Kenya Power and Lighting is the one that provides the electricity to our houses, and they're literally struggling because of some of the bad deals that you make to provide that energy. So you've secured a power purchasing agreement with them, and as far as you're concerned, all is good. But all is not good if you're not getting value for money, because at the end of the day, that bad deal, right, ends up being paid by the Kenyan consumer in terms of electricity, and ends up making Kenya very expensive to come and do industries and manufacturing because our electricity is so expensive. I think KENGEN needs to wake up to the idea that we need affordable energy and power purchasing agreements that actually resonate with the entire region, because Kenya is one of the most expensive electricity providers, and that fault lies with KENGEN. And now I can see why all these expenses that you have here, there, everywhere are making our energy very, very expensive.
KENGEN, listen, the mood of the House and members. Number one is, what has elicited a lot of concern, KENGEN, is payments of these feasibility studies fully, 100%, 100%, maybe very quickly.
Yeah.
It raises a question, and that is why Auditor General captured it. Value for money, fully, quickly, pap. It's the easiest way of making money in KENGEN. Just look for feasibility study, do feasibility study, take your money, go. Where the project is going to be implemented or not is not up to you. But as Honorable PASSARIS said, money has been paid. And MD, you are MD today, you are not MD that time. I will tell you this. It is your responsibility and our responsibility to make sure that the costs come down for Kenyans paying for these electricity bills. And maybe, right, some of these, Honorable PASSARIS calls them bad deals that end up being loaded on the Kenyan in for example, Poco South. It's not good. It's our responsibility as leaders to protect that, and that's why we thank the Auditor General. And therefore, that has raised a very serious question. Tell the committee how many, what do you call those things? The ones that were recommended by KCA to be demolished or to be demobilized. What do you call those things?
Yeah, turbines, wind turbines.
How many?
I think there were four. There were four.
Four.
Yeah.
Submit to the committee. Maybe that letter from KCA, right? And in submitting those four, then you can submit to the members of this committee how much did it cost to do one turbine, so that then we can satisfy the queries of one report. We want to do it for purposes of a case study, so that we can be able to understand whether the people of Kenya are making any saving or any loss, because we must protect our safety. We must protect our safety. That's number one. Protecting safety is protecting our country. So we want to avoid a war between two government entities, KENGEN and KCA. It will just cripple our country. So that's why we are saying next meeting we want KCA to be here, and we'll talk about that one item. Then they can leave. Then we can proceed with you on the rest. Honorable members, having said that, have I communicated the mood of the House, Honorable Katana? Yes. Honorable Matenge? Yeah. Honorable now, okay, now he's addressing issue of national importance. Honorable Tungule. Honorable PASSARIS, have I addressed? Yes. Now, okay, he's giving me a thumbs up.